Samsaradava naladita loka Janaya karuna gana ganatvam Bhaktasya kayana gunaravasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Padichamadhyam Manasura Sena Romanchakampa Sutaranga Bajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Shri Vigrahara Ananichaman Shri Vigrahara Ananichanana Shingaratan Mandira Majinado Yuktasya Bhaktam Saniyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Chaturveda Shri Bhagavat Prasada Swadmana Chiptan Hari Bhakta Sangam Kittaiva Chiptim Vajjata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Shri Radhika Madhavayurapara Madhurya Leela Guna Rupa Nam Nam Pratikshana Swadhanalolupasya Bande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Bande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Bande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Nikunja Yuno Rati Kilisitai Yaya Bibi Udira Piksanina Tatarati Daksha Dati Balabasya Bande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Bande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Bande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Shakshadhari Chain Asamasta Sastri Yuktastattabhavya Yateva Sadvi Kinto Prabhuya Priyeva Tasya Bande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Bande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Bande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Yasha Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasha Prasada Nalagati Katopi Dayam Stutvam Stasya Yasastri Sandam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Bande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Bande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Namah Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavindam. Jaya Shri Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavindam. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavindam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bol Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Nitai Gaura. Ram 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 Jai Siya Ram, Ram 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 Jai Sita Ram. Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram, Patita Pavana Sita Ram. Ram 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 Jai Siya Ram, Ram 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 Jai Sita Ram. Namaste Narasimhaya Praladadayini. Hiranyakashipu Vakshahai Shilatam Kanakalaye. Ito Nrsimha Bharato Nrsimha, Yato Yato Yamitato Nrsimha. Bahir Nrsimha, Hidaya Nrsimha, Narasimhamadin Saranam Prapade. Tabakara Kamala Bare Nakam Adhuta Singham Lalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavajita Narari Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Re, Jaya Jagadesha Re, Jaya Jagadesha Re. Jaya Narasingade, Jaya Narasingade, Jaya Narasingade, Jaya Narasingade. Jaya Narasingade, Jaya Narasingade, Jaya Narasingade, Jaya Narasingade. Narasingade Bhagavan ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacha Statara Satara Shri Shri Shrimad Divine Grace Shri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapura Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Gangamai ki jai, Jamuna Maya ki jai, Samveda Bhaktivinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Shri Ramachandra Rambijai ki jai, Gaura Premanandi Haribam. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Bhavan ki jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhuti, Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityaname, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pacharani, Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatani, Gaura Premanandi, Haribola, Haribola, Haribola. Kalindi Priya Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Vrindaye Tulsi Devaya Priyaye Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Satyaratai Namo Namaha. Vrindaye Tulsi Devaya Priyaye Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Satyaratai Namo Namaha. Vrindaye Tulsi Devaya Priyaye Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Satyaratai Namo Namaha. Tulsi Devi Maharani ki jai. Does it work? Oh, you get to, okay.
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Abhilashi
Radha Krishna Seva Pava Abhilashi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Abhilashi
Radha Krishna
तो मारा शरण लो तारा वांछा पूर्ण हो
ये तुम्हारा
शरण लो तारा वांछा पूर्ण हो कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोरा ये विलास कुंजे दियो विलास कुंजे दियो नयने हेरी भो सदा युगल रूपरासी
नयने
सदा युगल रूपरासी ए निवेदन धरो साखीरानो गाता करो निवेदन धरो साखीरानो गाता करो सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी
सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी
दीना कृष्ण दासे को ये नामोरा
दीना कृष्ण दास को ये नामोरा
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नाबासी
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा ये नामासे
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नाबासी
श्री राधा
गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नाबासी नामो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नामो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नामो नमः यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे
यानि कानि
च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति
प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम
Vrindaye Tulsideva Priyaye Kesavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradi Devi Satiratai Namo Namaha. Vrindaye Tulsideva Priyaye Kesavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradi Devi Satiratai Namo Namaha. Vrindaye Tulsideva Priyaye Kesavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Sachiratai Namo Namah. Vrindaye Tulsidevi Maharani Ki Jai. O Tulasi, beloved of Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has his wishes fulfilled. Bestowing your mercy upon him, you make him a resident in Vrindavana. My desire is that you also grant me residence in the pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavana Dham. Thus, within my vision, I'll always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of the cowherd damsels of Raja. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays, may always swim in love with Shri Radha and Govinda. Tulsi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Buddhi Sumata Bhakta Smata Namaste Sasana Devi Guru. Shri Shikshastakam Ki Jai. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nivapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Badhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipradam Purnam Vitasvadanam Sarva Sapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Saktis Tatra Pita Niyamitak Smaranina Kala Etadrisi Tavakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaivam Jasisami Hajni Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tararapi Sahisnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatad Bhakti Rahaituki Twayi Ai Nandatanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Visame Bhavambudo Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadvisam Vichintaya Nayanam Galadasrudaraya Vadanam Gadgadurudaya Jira Pulaka Nisitam Vapu Kada Tavanamakrahane Bhavishyati Yuga Yutam Nimesena Chaksusa Parvasayitam Sunyayitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me Aslishyava Padaratam Pinastumam Adasaranam Marmahato Kurotuva Yata Tata Vavidatato Lampato Mat Prananatas Tusaeva Naparaha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the blaze and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It's the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of the kindness you enable us to easily approach you, but I am so unfortunate to have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O my Lord, well, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I fall into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy names? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs on my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai. Namah Vishnu Padaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti. Namaste, Saraswati Devi Guru. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting holy names of the Lord that should be avoided, and they are as follows: to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagating the holy names of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to and independent in names of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities or karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in the chanting of holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarabhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutani Srimati Bhakti Smartani Namaste Saraswati Devi. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Om Aganyati Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Pande Ham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Sabadutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pradhan Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivichamsa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Shri Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Saraswati Namini Shri Varsavanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Da Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruda Pasadanta Dvataharine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Shakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhade Padambujayate Namaha Namo Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchitananda Namine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Goravir Baba Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnavas Bhoma-Sri Jagannathayate Namaha Vanchakalpaturabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patittanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurichase Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhakta Kam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Suratur Mangur Mama Manda Mategati Matsarva Swapadambo Jo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindaranya Kalpradumada Hashimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shimad Radha Sila Govinda Devo Brastali Bi Savyamana Smarami Shiman Rasara Saram Bivam Sivata Tatastita Karsan Venus Maner Gopir Gopinatak Striyestano Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sid Vaitagadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anade Radhe Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Satmasukalpa Vriksha Laksha Britesa Surabhira Bibali Antam Lakshmi Sastra Satasambrahma Savyamana Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kvanantam Aravinda Dalayataksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesa Sobham Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandrakala Sadvanamalyavam Sri Ratnam Gadam Pranaya Keli Kalabalasam Shamam Tribangaladitani Taprakasam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vittimanti Bhasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujwala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purisham Navayuvanam Cha Vedesa Durlabham Durlabham Atma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Bantasta Koti Satavatsara Sampragam Yova Yora Tapi Manasomani Pungamana Sopyasti Yad Prabhada Simya Vichintya Tatve Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Soda Chayitam Jagadanda Kotim Yes Shakti Rasti Jagadanda Chaya Yadanta Andanta Rasta Paramanu Chayanta Rastam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Baba Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusa Suktarya Meva Nigama Pratitastavanti Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasatpati Bhavi Bhav Tabis Tabirya Eva Nijirupa Daya Kalabi Goloka Eva Navasat Akilat Mabuto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Chudita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidesu Vilokanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupa Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Meditista Nana Avatar Makarod Bhuvanesa Kintu Krishna Swayam Swam Aramam Kumamyo Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhuto Jagananda Koti Koti Swasesha Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahmaniskalam Anantam Sesha Bhutam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Mayahi Yasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Trigunya Tad Visaya Vida Vitayamanam Sadvavalamba Bolasabdam Satnam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Matayama Asum Yaprani Nam Prativalam Smaratami Pretya Lila Yatena Bhuvanani Jaya Yajasram Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijidamni Tali Chitasya Devi Mahesu Hadidama Sute 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 Prabhavani Jaya Vitasya Yen Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shistista Tipalaya Sadhava Sakti Reka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vivati Durga Ichana Rupma Yasya Chitistesa Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Kshiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Yasan Jayate Naita Taprita Kasti Heta Yasambhutama Pitata Samapaitika Yat Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajam Diparcha Devi Hita Santanam Abhyupetya Dipayate Vrita Heta Samana Dharma Yastadra Keva Hicha Vishnu Tayavi Bhati Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narnava Jale Bhajtisma Yoga Nidram Ananta Jagadanda Sarama Kupa Adhara Sakti Mavalamya Param Srohotim Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nishvasita Kalamata Valamya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Nata Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kalavi Sesha Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Basmanya Tasma Sakalesha Nijesu Tejas Sriyam Kiya Prakatiyate Pitat Pratatra Brahmaya Isha Jagadanda Vitana Karta, Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yatpada Palavi Yugambini Dayakumba, Dwande Purnamastama Yezikan Sanati Raja, Vignan Vihantamalamashi Jagatrayasya, Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Agni Mahika Ganamambu Maruti Sasya, Kalasta Tatmamana City Jagatrayan, Yasmat Bhavanti Visanti Amcha, Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yaschak Suresa Savitasa Galagrana. Sambrita Kalachakro, Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Sutayasta Pamsi, Ramadi Kita Patagava Testajiva, Yadata Matri Pakata Baba, Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yastrinder Gopama Tavenda Mahoswa Karma, Bandana Rupa Falabhajan, Matanoti Karmani Nirdati Kintu Chabakti Baja, Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yam Kroda Kamasa Japranayadi Bitti, Vatsaya Mohukuru Vasavya Baba Sanchinti Tasha Sabdisintan Operate, Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Kanta Parama Purusha Kapotarabo, Jumabu Mishkintamani Ganama, Itoim Amritam Kataganam, Natyam Gamanam, Apivam Sipriasaki, Chiranandam Jotiparama Pita Daswajama Picha Sayatra Siradi Bihisavadi Sirabi Vestisuma, Nimesa Dakuvavrajtina Yatra Bisamaya Bajeswitadi Pamtama, Ihugolo Kamitiam Vidanta States Antaxiti Racharakatibaya, see Guru Vastika Prayaski J. Spiritual Masters receiving benediction from the ocean mercy. Just as a cloud pours wood on the forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire. Materials are for my respectful base on the lotus feet. Such spiritual masters an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing and ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. Spiritual masters always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on and he feels quivering in his body. And tears flow from his eyes like waves are for my respectful basis on the lotus feet. Such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in temple worship. Shishi Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord of my respectful basis on the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, and allows that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. Offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastime, Radhika and Madhava, and the qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master relishes these, aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting gopis who at different times make different tastes arrangements for the perfection. Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs in the groves of Vrindavan are for my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all real scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master, who is the bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Grantha Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 10, Text number 1. Shisuka Uvacha Katvangad Dirgabahuscha Rajhus Tasmat Pritoshravaha Ajas Tato Maharajas Tasmat Dasarato Bhavat. Sukadeva Goswami said, O son of Maharaj Katvanga, O son of Maharaj Katvanga, was the son of Maharaja Katvanga was Dirgabahu, and his son was the celebrated Maharaja Raghu. From Maharaja Raghu came Aja, and from Aja was born the great personality, Maharaj Dasarata. So because today is Dussehra or Ram Vijay, we're going to hear about the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. The 10th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, Chapter 10, describes how Lord Ramachandra appeared in the dynasty of Maharaj Katvanga. It also describes the Lord's activities, telling how he killed Ravana and returned to Ayodhya, the capital of his kingdom. The son of Maharaj Katvanga was Dirgabahu, and his son was Raghu. The son of Raghu was Aja. The son of Aja was Dasarata. And the son of Dasarata was Lord Ramachandra, the supreme personality of Godhead. When the Lord descended into this world in his full quadruple expansion as Lord Ramachandra, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Satrughna, great sages like Valmiki, who were actually in knowledge of the absolute truth, described his transcendental pastimes. Srila Sukadeva Goswami describes these pastimes in brief. Lord Ramachandra went with Vishwamitra and killed Rakshasas like Maricha. After breaking the stout and strong bow known as Haradhanu, the Lord married Mother Sita and cut down the prestige of Parasurama. To obey the order of his father, he entered the forest accompanied by Lakshmana and Sita. There he cut off the nose of Surpanaka and killed the associates of Ravana, headed by Kara and Dusana. Ravana's kidnapping of Sita Devi was the beginning of this demon's misfortune. When Maricha assumed the form of a golden deer, Lord Ramachandra went to bring the deer to please Sita Devi. But in the meantime, Ravana took advantage of the Lord's absence to kidnap her. When Sita Devi was kidnapped, Lord Ramachandra, accompanied by Lakshmana, searched for her throughout the forest. In the course of this search, they met Jatayu. Then the Lord killed the demon Kabanda and the commander Vali and established a friendly relationship with Sugriva. After organizing the military strength of the monkeys and going with them to the shore of the sea, the Lord awaited the arrival of Samudra, the ocean personified. But when Samudra did not come, the Lord, the master of Samudra, became angry. Then Samudra came to the Lord with great haste and surrendered to him, wanting to help him in every way. The Lord then attempted to bridge the ocean, and with the help of advice from Vibhishana, he attacked Ravana's capital, Lanka. Previously, Hanuman, the great servant of the Lord, had set fire to Lanka, and now, with the help of Lakshmana, the forces of Lord Ramachandra killed all the Rakshasa soldiers. Then Lord Ramachandra personally killed Ravana. Mandodari and other wives lamented for Ravana, and in accordance with Lord Ramachandra's order, Vibhishana performed the funeral ceremonies for all the dead in the family. Lord Ramachandra then gave Vibhishana the right to rule Lanka and also granted him a long duration of life. The Lord delivered Sita Devi from the Ashoka forest and carried her in a flower airplane to his capital Ayodhya, where he was received by his brother Bharata. When Lord Ramachandra entered Ayodhya, Bharata brought his wooden shoes, meaning the Lord's wooden shoes. Vibhishana Sugriva held a whisk and fan. Hanuman carried an umbrella. Satrughna carried the Lord's bow and 2 quivers. And Sita Devi carried a water pot containing water from holy places. Angada carried a sword, and Jambavan Riksharaja carried a shield. After Lord Ramachandra, accompanied by Lord Lakshmana and Mother Sita Devi, met all his relatives, the great sage Vasistha enthroned him as king. The chapter ends with a short description of Lord Ramachandra's rule in Ayodhya. So that's a summary. Now we'll go through the verses. Verse number 2. Being prayed for by the demigods, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth himself, directly appeared with his expansion and expansions of the expansion. Their holy names were Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Satrughna. These celebrated incarnations thus appeared in 4 forms as the sons of Maharaj Dasaratha. So this is Canto 9, Chapter 10. That was verse number 2. Purport. Lord Ramachandra and his brothers, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Satrughna, are all Vishnu Tattva, not Jiva Tattva. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands into many, many forms. Advaitam Achyutam, Anadim Ananta Rupam. Although they are one and the same, Vishnu Tattva has many forms and incarnations, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 539. Ramadi Murti Sukala Niyamena Tistan. The Lord is situated in many forms such as Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Satrughna, and these forms may exist in any part of his creation. All these forms exist permanently, eternally, as individual personalities of Godhead and they resemble many candles, all greatly powerful. Lord Ramachandra, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Satrughna, who, being Vishnu Tattva, are all equally powerful, became the sons of Maharaj Dasaratha in response to the prayers by the demigods. Text 3. O King Parikshit, the transcendental activities of Lord Ramachandra have been described by great saintly persons who have seen the truth, because you have heard again and again about Lord Ramachandra, the husband of Mother Sita. I shall describe these activities only in brief. Please listen. So there are different Ramayanas, the most authoritative and the original one as well by Valmiki Muni. Then there is Ramayana in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we're reading now. Then there's Ramayana in the Padma Purana also. And then there are a whole bunch of other Ramayanas in different languages. But those three are the most authoritative. And of those three, obviously, Valmiki Muni's is the original, and Srimad Bhagavatam follows. And of course, it's Padma Purana. So all the other, let's say, attempts at writing the Ramayana are more or less, let's say, subordinate to these three. You have, in every part of India, in the vernacular languages, people translated the Ramayana. So you have Tulsidas in North India. His Ramayana has some mistakes in it, but it's very emotional. It's his personal understanding of Lord Ramachandra, and there's a lot of nice poetry. But like I said, there are some mistakes in it. And then there's Ramayana in Tamil, in Telugu, Malayalam, all these different languages, and written by different people. Almost all of them are based more or less on Valmiki Muni's Ramayana, but sometimes they deviate a little bit. What is interesting is that this Ram Vijay is celebrated all over India, but at the same time, there are certain places, at least 5 places, that worship Ravana as God. Did you know that? Did you know that? Huh? There are some places in India where they worship Ravana as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. I think I heard about Sri Lanka or something, but I don't know.
No, the places in India itself. There's at least 5 places where they worship Ravana on this day. Yeah, because one of those places where they say Ravana took birth, another place where he got married to Mandodari. So they sort of identify with Ravana because he is associated with those places somewhat. And they pray to him. Some of them pray to him as God, others pray for him. They do Shrad ceremony, so he'll be benefited, and so forth. It's very interesting, very, very interesting. India's an amazing place. Every nonsense is there. And, of course, a lot of bona fide things, many more bona fide things. So, verse number 3. O King Parikshit, the transcendental activities of Lord Ramachandra have been described by great saintly persons who have seen the truth, because you have heard again and again about Lord Ramachandra, the husband of Mother Sita. I shall describe these activities only in brief. Please listen. Modern Rakshasas. See, there's modern Rakshasas also today, right? So they're not only in the time of Ramachandra. Posing as educationally advanced merely because they have doctorates, have tried to prove that Lord Ramachandra is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but an ordinary person. But those who are learned and spiritually advanced will never accept such notions. They will accept the descriptions of Lord Ramachandra and his activities only as presented by Tattvadarshis, those who know the absolute truth. In Bhagavad Gita 4.34, the Supreme Personality of Godhead advises. Tat vidi paripatena paripasnena sevaya upadikshami te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Unless one is tattvadarshi in complete knowledge of the absolute truth, one cannot describe the activities of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, although there are many so-called Ramayanas, or histories of Lord Ramachandra's activities, some of them are not actually authoritative. See, that's what I said. There are many of them. A lot of them deviate somewhat because of the personal opinion of the person who writes it. Like Tulsidasa's, for example. Unless one is tattvadarshi, one who is seeing the truth, in complete knowledge of the absolute truth, one cannot describe the activities of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, although there are many so-called Ramayanas, or histories of Lord Ramachandra's activities, some of them are not actually authoritative. Sometimes Lord Ramachandra's activities is described in terms of one's own imaginations, speculations, or material sentiments. But the characteristics of Lord Ramachandra should not be handled as something imaginary. While describing the history of Lord Ramachandra, Sukadeva Goswami told Maharaj Pariksit, "You have already heard about the activities of Lord Ramachandra. Apparently, therefore, 5,000 years ago, there were many Ramayanas, or histories of Lord Ramachandra activities, and there are still many. But we must select only those books written by Tattvadarshis, Jnaninas Tattvadarshina, those who are seers of the truth, not the books of so-called scholars who claim knowledge only on the basis of a doctorate." This is a warning by Sukadeva Goswami. Rishibis Tattvadarshibhihi. Although the Ramayana composed by Valmiki is a huge literature, the same activities are summarized here by Sukadeva Goswami in a few verses. To keep the promise of his father intact, this is text 4, Lord Ramachandra immediately gave up the position of king and, accompanied by his wife, Mother Sita, wandered from one forest to another on his lotus feet, which were so delicate that they were unable to bear even a touch of Sita's palms. The Lord was also accompanied by Hanuman, king of the monkeys, or by another monkey, Sugriva, and by his own younger brother, Lord Lakshmana, both of whom gave him relief from the fatigue of wandering in the forest. Having cut off the nose and ears of Surpanaka, thus disfiguring her, the Lord was separated from Mother Sita. He therefore became angry, moving his eyebrows, and thus frightening the ocean, who then allowed the Lord to construct a bridge to cross the ocean. Subsequently, the Lord entered the kingdom of Ravana to kill him, like a fire devouring a forest. May that Supreme Lord Ramachandra give us all protection. Text 5. In the arena of the sacrifice performed by Vishwamrita, Lord Ramachandra, the king of Ayodhya, killed many demons, rakshasas, and uncivilized men who wandered at night in the mode of darkness. May Lord Ramachandra, who killed these demons in the presence of Lakshmana, be kind enough to give us protection. Text 6 and 7. O king, the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra were wonderful, like those of a baby elephant. In the assembly where Mother Sita was to choose her husband in the midst of the heroes of this world, he broke the bow belonging to Lord Shiva. This bow was so heavy that it was carried by 300 men, but Lord Ramachandra bent and strung it and broke it in the middle, just as a baby elephant breaks a stick of sugarcane. Thus the Lord achieved the hand of Mother Sita, who was equally as endowed with transcendental qualities of form, beauty, behavior, age, and nature. Indeed, she was the goddess of fortune who constantly rests on the chest of the Lord. While returning from Sita's home after getting her at the assembly of competitors, Lord Ramachandra met Parasurama. Although Parasurama was very proud, having rid the earth of the royal order 21 times, he was defeated by the Lord, who appeared to be a Kshatriya of the royal order. Text number 8. Carrying out the order of his father, who was bound by a promise to his wife, Lord Ramachandra left behind his kingdom, opulence, friends, well-wishers, residence, and everything else, just as a liberated soul gives up his life, and went to the forest with Sita. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Dasarata had 3 wives. One of them, Kaikeyi, served him very pleasingly, and he therefore wanted to give her a benediction. Kaikeyi, however, said that she would ask for the benediction when it was necessary. At the time of the coronation of Prince Ramachandra, Kaikeyi requested her husband to enthrone her son Bharata and send Ramachandra to the forest. Maharaj Dasarata, being bound by his promise, ordered Ramachandra to go to the forest according to the dictation of his beloved. And the Lord, as an obedient son, accepted the order immediately. He left everything without hesitation, just as a liberated soul or great yogi gives up his life without material attraction. Text 9. While wandering in the forest, where he accepted a life of hardship, carrying his invincible bow and arrows in his hand, Lord Ramachandra deformed Ravana's sister, who was polluted with lusty desires, by cutting off her nose and ears. He also killed her 14,000 Rakshasa friends, headed by Kara, Trishira, and Dusana. Text 10. O King Parikshit, when Ravana, who had 10 heads on his shoulders, heard about the beautiful and attractive features of Sita, his mind was agitated by lusty desires, and he went to kidnap her. To distract Lord Ramachandra from his ashrama, Ravana sent Maricha in the form of a golden deer, and when Lord Ramachandra saw that wonderful deer, he left his residence and followed it, and finally killed it with a sharp arrow, just as Lord Shiva killed Daksha. Text 11. When Ramachandra entered the forest, and Lakshman was also absent, the worst of the Rakshasas, Ravana, kidnapped Sita Devi, the daughter of the king of Videha, just as a tiger seizes unprotected sheep when the shepherd is absent. Then Lord Ramachandra wandered in the forest with his brother Lakshmana, as if very much distressed due to separation from his wife. Thus he showed by his personal example the condition of a person attached to woman. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this verse, the words Sri Sanginam Gatim Iti indicate that the condition of a person attached to women was shown by the Lord himself. According to moral instructions, Grihe Narim Vivarajayet, when one goes on a tour, one should not bring his wife. Formerly, men used to travel without conveyances. But still, as far as possible, when one leaves home, one should not take his wife with him, especially if one is in such a condition as Lord Ramachandra when banished by the order of his father. Whether in the forest or at home, if one is attached to women, this attachment is always troublesome, as shown by the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his personal example. Of course, this is the material side of Sri Sangi, but the situation of Lord Ramachandra is spiritual, for he does not belong to the material world. Narayana Parovyaktat. Narayana is beyond the material creation. Because he is the creator of the material world, he is not subject to the conditions in the material world. The separation of Lord Ramachandra from Sita is spiritually understood as Ripalamba, which is an activity of the Hiladini potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, belonging to the Shringara Rasa, the mellow of conjugal love in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is all the dealings of love, displaying the symptoms called Sattvika, Sanchari, Vilapa, Murcha, and Unmada. Thus, when Lord Ramachandra was separated from Sita, all these spiritual symptoms were manifested. The Lord is neither impersonal nor impotent. Rather, he is Satchitananda Vigraha, the eternal form of knowledge and bliss. Thus, he has all the symptoms of spiritual bliss. Feeling separation from one's beloved is also an item of spiritual bliss. As explained by Srila Swarupa Damodara Goswami, Radha Krishna Pranaya Virkirtir Hiladini Shakti. The dealings of love between Radha and Krishna are displayed as the pleasure potency of the Lord. The Lord is the original source of all pleasure, the reservoir of all pleasure, Lord Ramachandra, therefore manifested the truth both spiritually and materially. Materially, those who are attached to women suffer, but spiritually, when there are feelings of separation between the Lord and his pleasure potency, the spiritual bliss of the Lord increases. This is further explained in Bhagavad Gita 9:11. Avajanakti mam mudha param manasimtanam asritaha param asritam param bhavam ajananto mamabhuta maheshwaram. One who does not know the spiritual potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead thinks of the Lord as an ordinary human being, but the Lord's mind, intelligence, and senses are can never be affected by material conditions. This fact is further explained in the Skanda Purana, as quoted by Madhavacharya. It was actually impossible for Ravana to take away Sita. The form of Sita taken by Ravana was an illusory representation of Mother Sita, Maya Sita. When Sita was tested in the fire, this Maya Sita was burnt, and the real Sita came out of the fire. A further understanding to be derived from this example is that a woman, however powerful she may be in the material world, must be given protection, for as soon as she is unprotected, she will be exploited by Rakshasas like Ravana. Here the words Vaideha Raja Duhitari indicate that before Mother Sita was married to Lord Ramachandra, she was protected by her father, Vaideha Raja, and when she was married, she was protected by her husband. Therefore, the conclusion is that a woman should always be protected. According to the Vedic rule, there is no scope for a woman's being independent, asamaksham, for a woman cannot protect herself independently. Some women would argue against that today. So, what do you mean? I know how to shoot a gun. I have a gun. Someone messes with me, I'll shoot them. But it's factual that women can't really protect themselves effectively. Okay, so then we see here that let's see where I skipped a page. Okay, so quoting the Skanda Purana, Madhavacharya, it helps us understand more about this pastime of Lord Ramachandra. There are many versions of the Ramayana, but oftentimes people make mistakes and they present a material aspect of the Lord. There's nothing material about Lord Ramachandra because he is Narayana himself, and he's completely transcendental to the material nature. But to play out this drama of the Ramayana, at some point, especially after Sita's capture by Ravana and taking her to Lanka, it looked as if Rama was an ordinary person because he was crying and walking around the forest looking for her. He didn't have a treasury, he didn't have an army, and it was just himself and Lakshmana, and they were having, encountering these different demons that the Lord killed. So it was a difficult time. And at one point, if you read the Ramcharitmanas, Tulsidas explains that at one point Lord Shiva hears about this, and he's very interested to see the Lord in this state. So he goes and sees that Ramachandra, is lamenting, and he's looking around for Sita, and it looks as if, in a sense, that he's helpless. So Lord Shiva comes back. Now this is in the Ramayana of Valmiki Muni. It's not in the Ramayana by Tulsidas. It's not in the Valmiki Ramayana, right? So he comes back, and he tells Durga that this is amazing. He said, I saw the Lord, and it looked like he was crying, and he's looking for Sita. He says, it's the most wonderful thing I've ever seen. He's really excited, right? So Durga said, well, I'm going to go see too. I'm very interested in this. So she goes on her own to see this pastime of the Lord. And she thinks, well, wait a minute, maybe I can relieve his distress. So she changes her body into looking like Sita, right? And she approaches Lord Rama. And Rama looks directly at her and says, oh, Durga Mata, where's your husband, Shiva? And she's shocked because she looks exactly like Sita, right? And he can see right through her. And when he says this, she gets frightened. Why? Because she presents herself as Sita. Now, this is an illicit thing to do, right? He presents herself as the wife of Lord Ramachandra, but she's the wife of Lord Shiva, right? And the Lord recognizes it right away and says, oh, Durga, where's your husband, Shiva? So it freaks her out. She turns around and starts running away. And every time she looks back, she sees Rama and Sita together waving at her and smiling. And that freaks her out even more. So when she goes back to see her husband, Shiva understands what happened, right? And he's in samadhi. And she comes back and she wants to talk to him, and she can't because he's completely in trance. And it lasts for a very long time, a very long period of time. And during all that time, she can't talk to her husband. She realizes that she did something really wrong and that he knows about it, although she hasn't talked to him, But she knows that she's done something wrong because he's not talking to her, And he's in trance. So eventually, when he comes out of his trance, but it was after a long, long period of time, he basically excuses her, but only first as he asked her a question, did you see the Lord? And she says, she lies to him. And that is, no, I'm sorry. When she went back, she actually sees Shiva, and he asks her, well, what happened, and she says a lie. And then he goes into samadhi for a very long time, and she realizes she made a big mistake, right? So this is very emotional and very interesting thing to see the difference between Shiva seeing the Lord in that state of, let's say, difficult state, and Durga, right? And it shows, in one sense, the weakness of a woman like Durga to think that she could trick the Lord. But actually, she did not trick the Lord. And she was, and then she goes back and doesn't tell the truth to her husband, and she gets caught twice committing a mistake. So anyway, that's, of course, in the Tulsi Ramayana. It's not in the Valmiki Ramayana. So whether that actually happened like that, we're not sure. But it's a very interesting episode that he puts. And he has other things like that in his Ramayana that may or may not be factual. But it's very, let's say, interesting. Let's put it like that. Okay, so next one is text 12. 12. Lord Ramachandra, whose lotus feet are worshipped by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, had assumed the form of a human being. Thus he performed the funeral ceremony of Jatayu, who was killed by Ravana. The Lord then killed a demon named Kabanda, and after making friends with the monkey chiefs, killing Vali, and arranging for the deliverance of Mother Sita, he went to the beach of the ocean. In the purport, when Ravana kidnapped Sita, he was obstructed on the way by Jatayu, a large bird. But the powerful Ravana defeated Jatayu in the fight and cut his wing. When Ramachandra was searching for Sita, he found Jatayu almost dead and was informed that Sita had been carried off by Ravana. When Jatayu died, Lord Ramachandra did the duty of a son by performing the funeral ceremony, and then he made friends with the monkeys to deliver Sita Devi. Now, all this is amazing history, because we see when Lord Ramachandra is banished to the jungle, he gives his mercy to the jungle people, and not only people, but to animals like Jatayu. Jatayu is a vulture. A vulture is a very bad bird, but this vulture is a pure devotee, and he was a personal friend of Lord Dasarath. So what are we seeing here? We're seeing that Ramachandra is giving his mercy to people who are outside the Vedic culture, the Bills and other, let's say, more or less uncivilized tribes. And you still have tribals in India today, right? Well, there were tribals at that time also that were living outside the Vedic culture. But in this case of Guha, although he's a tribal chief, he's a devotee of the Lord. Of course, he may have some bad habits like eating meat, but the Lord, he rendered service to him. And then he's also blessing demons like Kabanda, and then Jatayu, who's a vulture but is actually a devotee. So this is an amazing thing. And then eventually he also forgives and accepts Vibhishan as his devotee. So this is an amazing pastime of the Lord. He's completely merciful, and he's helping all these outcasts of Vedic culture. And some of them are animals or mixed animal human beings. So, and the way the Lord treats Jatayu is very touching to the heart. He performs the full rituals for Jatayu after he left his body. And Prabhupada says we should all be like Jatayu. We should risk our life to save Sita Devi. Right? He said we should risk our life to serve the Lord. So that was a very interesting statement that he made about Jatayu. The whole culture of India is based mostly on the Ramayana. You know, and when Lord Ramachandra is in the forest, at that time, Bharat and all the residents of Ayodhya come to see him, to beg him to come back. And even Kaikeyi comes. At that time, you know, Dasarath had left his body already. And when Rama and Sita see Kaikeyi, they bow down to her and they forgive her and they treat her with respect. This is amazing, right? He had no, let's see, nasty bone in his body, let's say. You know, of course, he has no bones in his body, but that's a saying in English. He had no nasty bones in his body, right? He's so kind and gentle and forgiving and merciful. So this aspect of Rama is very, very attractive. You know, he's more merciful than even Jesus. You know, so and that's why he captured the heart. He has captured the heart of the Vedic culture. So, and he is an expansion of Krishna, but in this very merciful form. So then, verse 13, after reaching the beach, Lord Ramachandra fasted for 3 days, awaiting the arrival of the ocean personified. When the ocean did not come, the Lord exhibited his pastime of anger, and simply by his glancing over the ocean, all the living entities within it, including the crocodiles and sharks, were agitated by fear. Then the personified ocean fearfully approached Lord Ramachandra, taking all the paraphernalia to worship him. Falling at the Lord's lotus feet, the personified ocean spoke as follows. O all-pervading Supreme Person, we are all dull-minded and did not understand who you are. But now we understand that you are the Supreme Person, the Master of the entire universe, the unchanging and original personality of Godhead. The demigods are infatuated with the mode of goodness, the Prajapatis with the mode of passion, and the Lord of Ghosts with the mode of ignorance, but you are the master of all these qualities. Okay, so this is called a prayer. He's glorifying the Lord. He doesn't come and right away ask for anything, or he doesn't really apologize yet. He first of all, he presents himself as a dull-minded person who did not know who the Lord was, but now he's come to his senses, and he's glorifying him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he correctly puts people in their position. He says, like, the demigods are infatuated with the mode of goodness. That means they're still under the laws of nature. So the mode of goodness is not transcendental. Transcendental mode of goodness is, but not the mode of goodness. So the demigods, as we heard in the previous chapter, they're very exalted devotees, but they still have the desire to dominate nature. So therefore they're given these very high positions. And if they can perform their duties correctly, eventually they lose the desire to dominate and they can go back to Godhead. But if they don't, then they stay in the material world, because they are conditioned souls, even in the mode of goodness. And then the mode of the Prajapatis, like Daksha and others, are in the mode of passion, and the Lord of Ghosts, or Shiva, in the mode of ignorance. But you're the master of all these qualities. So he's the controller of goodness, passion, and ignorance. He's not controlled by them. The word jadadiya refers to intelligence like that of an animal. A person with such intelligence cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without being beaten, an animal cannot understand the purpose of a man. Similarly, those who are dull-minded cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but when punished severely by the modes of material nature, they begin to understand them. A Hindi poet has said, Dukha se sabahari baje, sukha se baje koi, sukha se agar hari baje, dukha katan se hai. Is this good Hindi, or is it a little bit mixed with, huh? It's
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of in poetry.
Because they say Hindi poet means it's Hindi.
Okay, so it's special poetry Hindi, right?
It's very popular saying, man.
Yeah, okay. When one is distressed, he goes to the church or temple to worship the Lord, but when opulent, he forgets the Lord. Therefore, punishment by the Lord through material nature is necessary in human society, for without it, men forget the supremacy of the Lord due to their dull, blunt intelligence. Whoa. So, this is the case of Einstein. He did not believe that God rewards and punishes people. He said, I don't believe in a God like that, right? So you see how off target he is. You know, he was just a speculator. He was not really that smart. Right? Okay. Dukha se sabahari baje, sukha se baje koi, sukha se agar hari baje, dukha katan se hai.
Dukha kathan se hai means what does it mean?
Kathan, I don't know what is the meaning of
So haya means is. So he is, they have a dull, blunt intelligence. Katan must mean dukkha katan. So that must mean that consciousness is dukkha. It's bad.
What is my understanding is then there will be no dukh.
No sadness. Yeah.
No sadness. Dukh katha se hoy. Kahan
That's
se
not
hoy.
kaha, that's why kathan.
But the meaning is if we are already worshipping Lord, remembering Lord, then there will be no sadness, no sorrow. No
Oh, okay. I got it wrong. Okay.
No dukh katha se hoy.
Okay. So is that the translation? So when one is distressed, he goes to the church or temple to worship the Lord, but when opulent, he forgets the Lord. So where is that? Duke se sabahari bhaje?
Dukh se sab hari bhaje means when somebody is in distress, they worship the Lord. That's the first line.
Yeah.
Sukh se bhaje koi. Sukh means happiness. Bhaje koi means to worship. Only few people do.
When they
Means only few people worship
When they're happy.
when they have.
Then?
Sukh se agar hari bhaje. If you worship the Lord when you are happy,
Then
dukh kathan se hai.
so then there will be no distress. If you are worshipping Lord when you are happy, then dukh will not come. Like basically, distress will not. Kathan, I don't know.
Difficult. Sadness will come, less sadness will come. It is difficult to get sadness.
Only the one word I don't understand.
This is a little mixed with Bengali, isn't it?
I think it's
Similar.
I think it's mixed with maybe like Braj Bhasha, which is
Okay.
that's where Tulsi Das, all his Ramayana.
Yeah.
It was a bit different language.
Oh, so he's probably quoting Tulsidas. A Hindi poet has said. So he's quoting Tulsidas.
Kathan. Yeah, the last line is a little bit, so 3 lines are trivial, but last line is a little bit confusing.
Only the kathan word is you need to figure out.
Okay.
But I think what
Cutting maybe if you go to difficult, like then distress will not come.
But
It's
I
difficult to come.
Prabhupada made correct translation. The next line is exactly meaning of what the verse is.
What's that?
The Prabhupada made the translation is exactly correct. So whatever he wrote, there is a translation of that in his language,
Oh, in English.
English. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly meaning of that. What? So ultimately, everybody needs to be punished so that they can remember God. All that.
Yeah, so Krishna instructs in 2 ways. One, by speaking Bhagavad Gita, and second, by punishing people so they realize they're making a mistake. Okay. Text 15. My Lord, you may use my water as you like. Indeed, you may cross it and go to the abode of Ravana, who is the great source of disturbance and crying for the 3 worlds. He is the son of Vishrava, but is condemned like urine. So there's 2 types of sons. That one son, a bad son is the father has a genital, and from the genital comes sperm to create a son, but also from the genital comes urine. So a bad son is compared to the urine of a father, rather than a good son is compared to the semen of the father. Right. Please go kill him, and thus regain your wife Sita Devi. O great hero, although my water presents no impediment to your going to Lanka, please construct a bridge over it to spread your transcendental fame. Upon seeing this wonderfully uncommon deed of your lordship, all the great heroes and kings in the future will glorify you. Except for the Christians, of course. They gave a new name to the bridge. They call it Adam's Bridge, right? Instead of, what is it? Setu? Ram Setu, right?
Setu means bridge.
Yeah, so they said it's Adam's Bridge. They've renamed it, right? So it's completely nonsense, you know. So the purport. It is said that a son and urine emanate from the same source, the genitals. When a son is a devotee or a great learned person, the seminal discharge for begetting a son is successful. But if the son is unqualified and brings no glory to his family, he is no better than urine. Here Ravana is compared to urine because he was a cause of disturbance to the 3 worlds. Thus the ocean personified wanted him killed by Lord Ramachandra. One feature of the Supreme Personality Godhead, Lord Ramachandra, is omnipotence. That means he's completely powerful. He has all power. Omni means all, and potence means power. The Lord can act without regard to material impediments or inconveniences, but to prove that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and was not merely advertised as Godhead or elected by popular vote, he constructed a wonderful bridge over the ocean. Nowadays it has become fashionable to create some artificial God who performs no uncommon activities. A little magic will bewilder a foolish person into selecting an artificial God because he does not understand how powerful God is. Lord Ramachandra, however, constructed a bridge over the water with stone by making the stone float. This is proof of God's uncommonly wonderful power. Why should someone be accepted as God without displaying extraordinary potency by doing something never to be done by any common man? We accept Lord Ramachandra as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he constructed this bridge, and we accept Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he lifted Govardhan Hill when he was only 7 years old. We should not accept any rascal as God or an incarnation of God, for God displays special features in his various activities. Therefore, the Lord himself says in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvata tyakvadeham punarjanma naitimam eti soarjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, or Arjuna. The activities of the Lord are not common. They are all transcendentally wonderful, not able to be performed by any other living being. The symptoms of the Lord's activities are all mentioned in the Shastras, and after one understands them, one can accept the Lord as he is. It's a wonderful purport by Prabhupada. Okay, so it's 7:20. We'll stop right there. Are there any questions? You see, there's a Ramayana in the Bhagavatam also.
Yeah, I didn't know.
You didn't know that? Okay, that's why you come to class. Haribol. Yeah, that's why we're reading it today. This is the day to...
Ramayana is a part of curriculum in our India, but yes, a lot of people know about little bit about the Ramayana.
Very little, very little.
Very short.
But yeah,
No, they learn from the comic books.
no, it's part of curriculum.
Is it part of the curriculum? But how do they present it?
There's a book special.
No, I know, but how is it?
Devotion, Maharaj.
What?
No devotion into it. It's more about
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
Like a story.
Mythology, as you said. It's
Yeah.
just
Like a lot of stories, this is one of the stories like this.
One of the stories, one of the mythologies.
Yeah,
Mythology.
mythology.
Yeah.
Yes.
So people cannot figure out.
That's a shame. Okay. These purports Prabhupada gives are wonderful. And this goes on for 3 chapters. It's not, we're just in the beginning here. So if we have some time tonight, I don't know, we'll see. Or maybe we can read this for 2 or 3 days. Okay, any questions about it? Okay, we'll have Guru Puja. Haribol.
Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Mandamoye Savadana Made
Mandomoyi Savadana तोरिया जाए
कृष्ण प्राप्ति हो जहाँ होय दे गुरुमुख पद्मावज्ञा चित्ते ते गौरिया ज्ञा
Guru Mukha Padmavagya Chittete Goriya
हरना कोरी हो माने आशा श्री गुरु चराने रति ऐसे उत्तमा गति जय प्रसाद पूरे सर्वा आशा
ये प्रसाद पूरे सर्वासा
चक्षुदान दिलो दे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिलो दे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो
प्रेमा भक्ति जहाँ होय दे अविद्या विनाशा जाते
प्रेम भक्ति जहाते अविद्या विनाश जाते
प्रेमा भक्ति जहाँ होय दे अविद्या विनाशा जाते
प्रेम भक्ति जहाते अविद्या विनाश जाते
वेदिका जहाँ राचारी तो
वेदे गाय नरचरितो
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधमा जनार बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदन जनर बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधमा जनार बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदन जनर बंधु
लोकना लोके राजीवाना आहा प्रभु पुरो दोया देहो मोरे पादाचाया
प्रभु पुरा दया दिया मोरे पाद जया
आहा प्रभु पुरो दोया देहो मोरे पादाचाया
प्रभु पुरा दया दिया मोरे पाद जया
ये बेजास गुसुक त्रिभुवाना प्रभुपाद पतिता पवाना
पतिता पवाना
जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा
जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा
जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nidhi Namine
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nidhi Namine
Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasyadhyade Sadarine
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasyadhyade Sadarine
Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajika Shishi Shimada's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Chidvaita Gadadhar Shivasana Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhani Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mayapura Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Pavani Ki Jai. Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutani Namaste Saraswati Devi. The lotus reeds. of our spiritual master are the only way by which you can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his mouth.
Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic story. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame spread all over the three worlds. Your lotus feet.